This is Currently Inked, episode number 8 for August 11th, 2016. This episode of Currently Inked is sponsored by Pen Chalet at penchalet.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Currently Inked, episode number 8. I am back in my studio, and I am glad to be back in my studio. I had a great time at the DC Pen Show this last weekend. I arrived there on early Thursday evening after a nonstop flight from Seattle to DC. I took a cab to the hotel, dropped off my stuff. This time my suitcase actually arrived at the hotel or at the airport, which was good. Went over, had dinner with Mary Collis and her husband of the From the Pen Cup blog, and then went back, spent some time in the bar, meeting people and greeting people and saying hi and getting caught up, and then hit the show floor hard on Friday morning. So I went down, walked most of the floor, talked to a bunch of people, picked up a couple of pens and a bunch of ink, and I'll go into that later on. I'm going to be doing a write-up of my experience. Saturday was mostly spent at the Van Ness table. I was helping out there this year, and so just talking about ink pretty much all day long. Interesting note, I learned that everybody in the world has a different definition of the color sepia. I got a couple different people came to me and said, I want a really good sepia ink. Now, I think I know what sepia is, and I'd show them that, and they're like, no, that's not sepia. One woman walked away with a really orange ink. One guy walked away with a dark brown ink with red undertones. I was looking at kind of a lighter brown ink. So it was, everyone has a different definition of sepia, apparently. Anyway, so I did that on Saturday. Then on Sunday, it was all about spending the rest of my monies, buying the stuff I was going to buy. I'd been looking at stuff, had a couple things in mind that I wanted to revisit, see if they were still there and if they were, pick them up, and kind of enjoy that whole process. So it was a lot of fun. I flew back Monday night during the midst of the Delta debacle, which was a little scary, but fortunately I was on Alaska Airlines, so it didn't impact me that much. And I got bumped up to first class again, so they could free up the seats in coach to let some of the Delta people on. So it worked out really nicely, and got back late Monday night, picked up the dog on Tuesday morning, and I've just been trying to get caught up on sleep and get myself back on Pacific time instead of Eastern time, because I don't like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning when I don't have to. Anyway, so keep an eye out for the Pen Show write-up. That'll be coming in the next few days, hopefully. And in the meantime, allow me to make a nice little fun announcement. I've teased these before, but they are finally here and they're finally available for sale. These are the new Inky Fingers notebooks. So we have currently inked, lined, and blank in both traveler size and, let me find it here, in pocket size. So this is the Fountain Pen Day pocket notebook cover. And I've got currently inked, blank, and lined in here. And you can get these at fountainpenday.com if you don't have one. I highly recommend them. They're nice little, very nice feeling leather. Got the little Fountain Pen Day logo embossed at the bottom there. So you can get these from Carrie, and they're really nice. So they are now available for sale on penhabit.com. If you just go click on the shop link and then click on the currently inked notebooks link, you can get them. They're $5 for the pocket notebooks with an automatic 10% discount if you buy 2 or more. Likewise, they are $8 with for the traveler's notebook size. Same deal with the 10% off. And there's also a 3-pack of one of each of the kinds in both traveler's and pocket. Pretty substantial discount off of those as well. Plus an extra 10% off if you order more than one 3-pack. So that went really well. I took the first batch with me to the DC show, sold a lot of them, a little bit more than half of what I brought. And then Lisa Van Ness is going to be bringing the rest of that stock with her to the San Francisco Pen Show in just a couple weeks. So if you're in San Francisco, stop by the Van Ness table and you can pick them up there. So she will be carrying those as well. The only one she won't have with her is the Traveler's Notebook sized blank, because I just didn't have those back from the printer in time before I took off for the show. So So if you're interested in a new notebook, head over to penhabit.com, pick those up. They are using the same wheat straw paper that I used in the prototype notebooks that I did earlier. It's great paper for this kind of application. I love Tomoe River. I really like Rhodia. I like Clairefontaine. But the dry times on those, because they're coated, tend to be a little problematic in a notebook situation, I find. It's great for loose leaf, great for writing, and if I'm doing big A4 pages, that works out fine for me. But in these small notebooks and stuff like that, I hate having to sit there and fan the notebook out simply because I want to close it and go on my way. And this wheat straw paper is more absorbent, but without feathering or bleeding through, so you get quicker dry times, and I like that a lot in this particular application. So, all right, let us dive in, and I'm going to start, go over here and start with the questions. So the first question comes to me from Blake in Tacoma, Washington, so just down the road from where I live, and Blake asks, what is your favorite filling system and why? It's by a pretty substantial margin, it is the cartridge converter filling system. That is just my preference. It is easy, it's fast, it's easy to clean, and the ink capacity is not significant. Now, if I were writing huge swaths of text, taking notes in school or something like that, where running out of ink would be traumatic for me, I probably would say piston fillers. But because I've always got at least 5 to 10 pens around me that are inked at any one time, running out of ink in one is not that big a deal. And because I like to change inks frequently, and I'm always testing pens, so I've got pens that I don't, I'm not going to keep writing with long after the review is over. I'm going to finish the review and wash it down. So the less ink I have to wash down the sink, the better. So I like the ease of cleaning them, because you can just take it off and flick the ink out, fill it up with water a couple times, and flick that out, call it good. Use a bulb syringe to blow water through the nib and feed, call it good. And then a lot of times I will fill up the feed with water and plug it back onto the converter with water, plug it back onto the feed, and then sit it nib tip up in paper towels to let the water wick out, because that'll a lot of times bring out any residues of ink that get hidden in the nooks and crannies and things like that, and it dries the nib at the same time. So I usually do that overnight, and it works out really well. So those are my favorite. The other filling systems are a lot of fun, and I like playing around with them. I even like restoring them, but when it comes to just day-to-day use, cartridge converter and standard international cartridge converter are my favorites. All right, let's take a look at a pen. This is a DC show fine. This is the Waterman 94 in olive ripple with a flexible nib. It's a lever-filled pen, speaking of filling systems. It is, it's not, lever fillers are not my favorite because they're kind of a pain to maintain and a pain to clean, but they do have a pretty nice ink capacity. I bought this on Friday at the show. Really like it. Olive ripple is a less common color than the red ripple that you often see with these vintage Watermans. And the nib on this is just a really, really nice flexible nib. It's not a wet noodle necessarily, but it's an ideal nib, number 4 sized ideal nib, and it's got a nice line variation. But it requires just a little bit of effort to get that line variation. It's not a sloppy wet noodle at all. Interesting experience with the pen. When you buy vintage, you always run the risk of getting something you weren't expecting. I mean, always, always, always. So I bought the pen, went to go fill it that night when I got back to my hotel room, and the lever popped off. And it's hard. The lever filler the lever box has these 2 little prongs like this, and the bottom prong on one side was snapped off, so there was nothing holding in place. So when I went to go lift the lever, it just popped right out and couldn't stay in. Fortunately, if a pen breaks, probably the very best place for it to break is at a pen show, because the next morning I found a replacement part. It was in nickel rather than gold, so I took it to someone who was at the show plating items, so he plated it in gold for me, and then I took it to someone else who put it all together for me, polished the pen up, polished the nib up, put a new sack on it, and, for $40, I walked away with basically a fully functional, beautiful, almost new condition pen. It's in really, really great shape. It writes like an absolute dream. Very cool. And you won't be able to see the nib too well here. Got the nice heart-shaped breather hole. One of the things I find kind of interesting is they make the, let's see, here we go. They make the nib out of that same kind of olive-colored ebonite, so it matches the pen instead of just a black ebonite feed, which I like a lot. So that was one of my Friday finds, and I'm really enjoying the pen. I haven't played with it a lot because I haven't been home that long, but I really like it. It's a lot of fun. Another question. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Philip from Albany, Georgia asks, I'm a newbie with only the Pilot Metropolitan and various Jinhao pens, but I'm looking to step it up a notch. Yeah, I narrate audiobooks. Can you do? I can't read. What is your opinion on the Monteverde Artista? I have heard others say that it writes super smooth. Do you have any suggestions for a really smooth writing next level pen? So when it comes to smoothness, I'm going to offer you a sage little bit of wisdom. There is no such thing as the smoothest pen. I get this question all the time. It's probably my most frequently asked question. What's the smoothest? What's the smoothest? And I will tell you right up front, there is no such thing as the smoothest pen. There are so many factors that go into smoothness when it comes to a nib that you can't just say this pen has a smooth nib. Most nibs are ground and polished by hand, so you're going to get natural variation depending on the factor, or depending on the person doing it. You'll also get variation based on the equipment that they use to do it, because there are different ways to grind and polish nibs. Ink plays a factor. The paper plays a factor. The ink flow plays a factor. The lubricants in the ink. There's so many things that go into making a nib smooth that I can only tell you about pens that have been smooth for me. If you write with a heavy hand, a nib might be less smooth. If you like extra fine, it might not be smooth at all, because extra fine nibs generally aren't as smooth as mediums or broads. So smooth is a loaded term, and then you say a next level pen. And I don't know what you define a next level pen at. You didn't specify a budget. So let me give you a couple thoughts about things that have worked for me. For starters, I've never used the Monteverde Artista, so I can't tell you whether or not how that pen writes. I will tell you, and I'll be careful about how I say this because I don't want to give you bad information. I have had both good and bad experiences with Monteverde pens. A couple of them have been really smooth, wet, juicy writers, really lovely nibs. Other ones have had pretty substantial problems, and you can look back in my review history and see those. But I will tell you that if you're going to buy the Artista, I would highly recommend you buy from a retailer with a good return policy, in case you get a pen that is problematic. I will also tell you that Jaffa, the U.S. distributor for Monteverde, is really good about repairs. So if you get a pen and it doesn't write well and you aren't able to return it for whatever reason or exchange it for whatever reason with your retailer, you can send it to Jaffa and they will often do a repair because their pens have lifetime warranties. Just be aware that if you decide to go that route, I believe last time I checked, I think their shipping and handling fee is $12 or something like that. So if you're spending $40, $50 on a pen and then you have to slap another 12 on plus the cost of shipping it to them, just be aware of that. So that's neither here nor there. That's just been my experience. In terms of other pens that have had smooth nibs for me, the Faber-Castell Loom, I think Faber-Castell's under 100 pens have some of the best nibs currently on the market right now. I really like their nibs, and I have since the very first Faber-Castell pen I've tried. Other pens, most of the pens in this range, you're going to get Jowo-made nibs. So think TWSBI. I really like the broad nib on my TWSBI Eco. It was smooth and nice and wet. Other pens in the sub-$100 range, I'm thinking of like the Ranga pens that Peyton Street pens carry with a Jowo nib. If you wanted to go up to the $125, $150 range, you can get some really nice, like the Lamy 2000 generally has a wet, smooth nib. Some of the lower-end Pelicans will have decent nibs, can have decent nibs. Yeah, I mean, it kind of varies, but I will tell you this, and this is my free advice to everybody, is the you get what you pay for it advice. If you're going to get into fountain pens at all, you need to own a micro mesh kit with mesh going from at least 2400 grit to 12,000 grit and some brass shims and a loop. And you need to learn how to smooth your own nibs. Don't practice on your nice pens. Don't practice on your expensive pens. Buy some cheap pens, some cheap Jinhao Hero pens for $2-3 each, or even better, go to a site like xfountainpens.net or .com, I don't remember which, and buy some $5 Knox nibs and practice smoothing those, because everybody has a different preference. They have different hand pressure. They roll their pens or they don't. Some people like a little bit of feedback. Some people don't. Some people like a wet nib. Some people need a drier nib. Learn how to smooth your nibs. It will totally change the way you deal in this hobby, and you'll be able to get every one of your pens or most of your pens writing the way you want to. And that's kind of where I am with my hobby right now. Keep in mind, I've only been doing this for about 3.5 years, so I'm not an expert. I'm not a nibmeister or anything like that. But I've learned through experience that a little bit of micro mesh and a little bit of patience will allow me to customize the pen to my preferred writing experience. And that is invaluable, because if you've got a pen you don't like writing with, why keep it? Why have it in your collection? Get rid of it. So play around with that. Do yourself a favor, experiment on some cheap pens or cheap nibs, and learn the skills, because they will always come in handy for you. Okay, let's look at another pen here. This pen is pretty special. So I have a pen pal I've been writing with a few times who has perhaps some of the most beautiful handwriting I've ever seen in my entire life. It's kind of sickening, and I'm really jealous. And he's kind of been teasing me. He's like, we've got this really neat thing coming up. You'll be able to see it at the DC show. Well, at the DC show, I ran into he and his wife and his son and their brand manager to introduce a new brand of pens that they were unveiling at the DC show called Kanilea pens. And they are based on the family vacations in Hawaii a lot, and they've really grown to love the islands. They hope to retire there someday. And so this whole line of pens is all about living in nature, living with nature in Hawaii. And so they've developed these contemporary or these custom materials based on photos they've taken while they are there that are very indicative of the Hawaiian Islands, and they are gorgeous pens. I saw these pens. This was one of those where I saw a pen, I knew I had to have it, and I knew if I didn't buy it right then and there, it was going to be gone. And sure enough, I ended up buying the very last one, and I bought it on Friday. They didn't even have this pen to show for the rest of Saturday or Sunday. And here it is. This gorgeous beauty is based on a design of a photo of, if there's sand and then kind of the waves crashing onto the sand and then swirling out into this darker blue material here. It is a beautiful, I think this is called the Kanakai pen. I can tell you here really quickly. Kahakai, I think it is. I need to verify that. Is that an H or an N? Looks like an H. Kahakai. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but that looks like it's made of sand. And then this deep, swirly turquoise blue water. And you know how I feel about turquoise. This is just a beautiful pen. It's got the hibiscus flower medallion at the top of the pen. This is a beauty of a pen. The Kanilea pens were really kind of the darling of the DC show this year. Usually there's one thing that gets a lot of attention, and this year it was these. They sold a lot. They sold out of a lot of the models. It's just a gorgeous, and they even got it so the pattern so the pattern continues up. Hugh, one of the owners of the company, made the pens himself from these custom blanks, and then worked on the nib. And what he did with this nib is just miraculous. Speaking of learning how to smooth nibs. So these are not inexpensive pens, and they've just been announced, so stock might be a little low, but KenaleaPens.com, I think, is where these are. Or Kenalea Pen Co. is where you can get these. I adore this thing. This is what I've decided is this is the pen I'm going to use in the winter in Seattle after I'm to the point of slitting my wrists after 3 weeks of or 3 months of like solid gray weather, because this just is sunny and bright and reminds me of tropical climes. It is a gorgeous pen. I really look forward to doing the full review on these, because I feel like this company is doing a lot of things right out of the gate. So, Kenalea pens. And, I forgot to do this for the last pen as well. That's the ink I've got in there. So, Kobe, which is a Japanese stationery store, was at the show, and they brought their entire line of Sailor Custom inks. So this is number 26. What is it? Wada Misaki. And it's a really nice turquoise that I inked it up with. And then the Waterman 94 that I looked at earlier, this is the ink that I've got in there. It's Parker Quink Blue Black, although I really would say Parker Quink Black Blue, because it's black, a little bit of teal in it, or it's blue with a little bit of teal in it, and then some black, as opposed to being a black with a blue tint. So it's I don't use it a lot because I don't use blue blacks a lot, and the bottle is kind of boring, and I tend to get drawn to the bottles even though I shouldn't. But it's a nice ink. It performs well. It's generally pretty safe for vintage pens, especially those with latex sacks, and so that's why I used it in that pen. All right, let's take a quick break to talk about the sponsor for this episode of Currently Inked, Pen Chalet. Pen Chalet has been a sponsor of the Pen Habit since I had sponsors. Ron and the folks at Pen Chalet have been doing a great job supporting us, and they've got a great selection of all kinds of different pens and accessories and inks at great prices. He is a real friend. Ron is a real friend of the pen blogging community, and he really does a lot to support us. So Pen Chalet is a great store. They've got great customer service, free shipping for orders over $50. And I don't know about you, but any store I go to that has pen stuff, if I order anything, I'm going to order more than $50 of it. That's just kind of the way it is. He is offering a 10% off discount for your complete order if you order and use the code INKED, I-N-K-E-D, all caps. When you check out, that'll take 10% off your entire order. And as I always say, if you do decide to order from Pen Chalet, and I can't recommend enough that you do, make sure to, in the comments field for the order, thank them for their support of the Pen Habit, because it means a lot to me and allows me to continue making content for you. So don't forget, 10% off coupon code using the code INKED, I-N-K-E-D, and thank you again to Pen Chalet. All right, I think it is time for another question, so let's pop through. This is a question from Yoon Hoo Jin from South Korea, and the question is, how much does aesthetic affect your liking of the classic pen's LB5? Do you think the Ebonite King of Pen would enamor you as well? Short answer is a bunch. Aesthetic is very important to me, and I am drawn not to the... I mean, anyone who's watched my videos knows that I'm never going to be asked to join the Black Pen Society. It's never going to happen. I like color. I like flashy. I like unique designs and beautiful materials. So that plays a great deal. I mean, I could just lay my LB5s out on a table and look at them and be very happy. The fact that they are also spectacular writers and perfectly balanced and beautifully made just adds to that. Now, I will say I've never had a chance to use a King of Pen before. Just a straight, like an Ebonite King of Pen. I will probably never buy one simply because I don't want to buy a black pen. If given the option between using a beautiful green, or purple or brown or white acrylic LB5 versus a black Ebonite pen, I'm going to pick the LB5 every time. Now, when I was at the DC show, Brian Anderson from Anderson Pens showed me one of the most gorgeous King of pens I've ever seen in my life. It's a very rare, special, limited edition. I think it's called the Mosaic. It's this blue, green, black, sparkly, translucent gorgeousness that he found at the show. Probably ridiculously expensive. I didn't even bother asking. Gorgeous, gorgeous King of pen. Now, if that were the pen I got, I'd probably love that as much as my LB5s. But if it's just a black pen, that's probably not going to do it for me. The aesthetics are pretty important. And I actually talk about that in an upcoming review for the Konid bulk filler, which will be coming up in a month or two. So keep an eye out for that, for a little bit more in depth about that. Okay. One more pen for Currently Inked. We're running a little long here, so I want to get one more pen and one more question in. This is, I'm not going to call it a legacy pen or a vintage pen because it hasn't been out of production for that long. Basically, my rule of thumb is if it's younger than me, it's not vintage. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to pull that rule off, but as far as I'm concerned, if the pen was made any time after 1978, it's not a vintage pen because I'm not ready to start calling myself a vintage human. This is a Sheaffer Legacy, and this is the copper finish. Really beautiful kind of brown metal shiny finish. It's not copper like the recent Montegrappa Copper Mule, but it's got this kind of brown metal finish that is just bright and shiny and surprisingly fingerprint resistant. Usually shiny metal is just covered with fingerprints, and this seems to do a really nice job. It's a pull top cap, and I don't want to do the full review here, but it's got this lovely Sheaffer inlaid nib. This pen was provided to me by Van Ness Pens. They have something like 700 of these new old stock that someone bought the rest of the stock of this pen when the Sheaffer factory in Janesville, Wisconsin shut down. And the Van Nesses have just a ton of these in stock. And so Lisa provided one for me, and I got it ground into an Architect nib by Dan Smith. Also, you can find him at nibsmith.com. And if you're not familiar with an Architect grind, it's kind of like a stub nib turned 90 degrees. So it's cut very fine going up and down and very wide going side to side. It's kind of I call it a reverse stub. This is my first Architect nib. Dan did a great job. It's a great writer. Nice kind of soft nib on this. Very unusual filling system. It's kind of like a vac filler, but kind of not. It's got this weird converter thing with an air hole on the top, and then I'm taking it off because it's inked up right now. I don't want to spread ink everywhere, but you pull this up and you push it down like a vac filler, like on the TWSBI VAC 700, and it squeezes this. I think it's a sack inside here. So I haven't played around with a lot. It can be converted to just a standard cartridge converter pen, I believe, but I'm still learning this pen and getting to know it. So I like it a lot, though. Very comfortable in hand. And this is the second Sheaffer Legacy I own. One is a color prototype with a really beautiful oblique nib on it. And I am really starting to like these Sheaffer Legacies. And for a pen that is no longer in production, not vintage, but, we'll call it a classic pen. These are still pretty affordable for an 18K nib. And I have this one inked with the infamous Quizzy Honey ink. So KWZ Quizzy, the Polish ink brand. Honey is one of the most popular colors of ink. I think we sold something like 55 bottles of honey ink at the DC show. Just a ton of this ink. I'm glad I picked up a bottle on Friday because I think I think it was sold out by the end of the day Saturday. And then we had people coming, they had people coming by on Sunday asking for it still. So really neat pen. I'm looking forward to doing the review of this. It's I really like this kind of brown metal. You don't see finishes like this very often, and it's a nice pen. I like it quite a bit. Okay, let's try to get one or two more quick questions in. Let's see here. So, Quack from, or in parentheses, Joe from Phoenix, and I answered one of his questions before. It says, do you ever use your vintage Schaefer script number 232 permanent blue black? And if so, how do you prevent mold from growing in it? So, let me find the bottle here. I've showed this before. I found this gigantic liter bottle. It's, I don't think it's a liter. It's probably a quart bottle because this was old and really before the metric system was used much at all. 32 fluid ounces. So I found this in an antique store in Seattle. Got it for $10. Still has ink in the bottom of it. I have never inked a pen with it. This is a permanent blue black. I think this is from the 50s is my guess. I've never inked a pen with it, but I have swatched it with a Q-tip. I'm not against doing it, but it's one of those things. I'm going to be real careful with the pens I put it in, at least initially, to see how it reacts. Probably, that ink is probably safe to use in any pens with a latex sac because those were the pens in use when that ink was being made. But, it's been around for a long, long time. It's also not the most attractive ink. So it's kind of bland, but it is permanent. So short answer is I haven't really used it. To prevent mold from growing in it, I would probably use a syringe to pull some out of the larger bottle and put it in a small sample container to fill it. And that's how I would do my filling. You'll notice, I'll pull this back out again. This bottle has an unusual dispenser on the top. This unscrews. This was meant to pour into an inkwell in a desk at a bank or a school or something like that. So this is not a bottle where you fill the pen from the bottle. This is a bottle where you pour it into another container and fill from that. So that's what I would do in that particular case. All right, let's try to grab... let's see what the next questions are. Anna from the Well-Appointed Desk, and she worked at the Van Ness table, and we spent a lot of time together. We're Pokemon Go buddies. Go Team Blue. And there was a Pokemon Go gym across the street from the hotel, and so every time we'd go to dinner or come back, we'd stand outside the Walmart there and try to take the gym between the two of us. So, she asked, are you planning to add the new Inky Fingers notebooks to your shop soon? Why, yes. Yes, I am. Thank you for bringing that up again and allowing me to plug my books one more time. So those are up now, Anna, so you can go ahead and find them there. And then Anna says, I also realized I don't have your email address, Doe. My email address is real easy, penhabit@gmail.com. I try to respond to all the emails I get. I do get a lot, so sometimes I can't, or if I do, it takes me a long time. Also, since I have been unemployed, I have gotten out of the habit of checking my email regularly, and so sometimes I'll go 2 or 3 days before I check my email again. So if it's urgent, leave a comment on YouTube. I check those more frequently. Actually, don't do that if it's urgent. Yeah, I don't know what to do if it's urgent. Maybe tweet at me or something like that. Leave a message on Facebook. I'll probably get that faster. So penhabit@gmail.com. Love to chat with people, answer questions, things like that. Along those lines, I had someone ask, someone ask via email, are you still unemployed? What's the job situation? So I talked about this a lot at DC. Short answer is my layoff happened on the 30th of March. It's been a little over 4 months. I've been going through interviews with a bunch of different companies. I will say that companies today suck at being professional about how they handle interviews. I do a lot of interviews. I've gone, through there's a process in the tech industry. It's like you do a phone screen and then you do a phone interview with the hiring manager, and then you do at least one interview loop with between 4 and 8 people that takes all day long. And I've gone through that process 3 or 4 times now. And then complete radio silence, and I'll follow up and say, what's going on? And I hear nothing, and I hear nothing. It's also summer. Summer's a real rough time in the tech industry to get a job. Most people who have gone through layoffs, which happen frequently in this industry, have said, I tried all summer, and then September hit, and I got a job. I had an interview earlier yesterday. I've got another interview or two next week coming up, one of them an in-person interview. So things are coming along. Hopefully something will pop up soon. I have to say, as difficult as it is to be applying for jobs, I've really enjoyed the downtime. I mean, if you're going to be out of work in Seattle, April through September is the time to be out of work because it has been a gorgeous summer. I've been doing a ton of gardening. It can get a little discouraging to not hear anything or to hear you're not the right fit. But aside from that, I've really enjoyed the downtime. Been able to make some major upgrades to my studio, get the Inky Fingers notebooks up and running, and really, I think you'll be pleased with the results of my labors on the Pen Habit reviews when those start coming up in the next few weeks. Okay, I'm going to try to cram in one more. I'm running way long here. I try to keep these to 30 minutes, and I've already failed by probably about 7 or 8 minutes. The next one is from Eric in Austin, Texas. I've never been to Austin, Texas, but I want to go. I hear it's a great city. Eric asks, I've recently discovered a love of turquoise inks. I have Pelikan and Lamy. What others would you suggest? Eric, you have come to the correct person because I heart turquoise inks. Turquoise inks are just amazing. And I have been on a quest to find the perfect turquoise ink. So in my mind, the perfect turquoise ink is Mont Blanc Honoré de Balzac Dandy Turquoise. It is impossible to find, however. So just put that one out of your mind. Other really, really great turquoises. I think Visconti turquoise is the best turquoise on the market in regular production line, period. It's a beautiful blue. It's got nice red sheening, or not sheening, but outlining in red around the edges when it pools up. It's really a beautiful ink. I think, let me check my currently inked log and see if I have that. I did in my old ink log, but I don't in this one. Another really great turquoise is the Caran d'Ache Hypnotic Turquoise. That's really great. And the other one I would recommend, it's a little on the pricey side here in the States, but it's really not too bad. I think it's $25 or something, like $28, is the Ackerman number 11 Treves Turquoise or Treve Turquoise. It is a beautiful ink, very well behaved. Others that I have tried and like, Konpeki by Iroshizuku, Aqua Lagoon by Diamine has a little more green to it, but it's still a very nice color if you like your turquoises with a little bit more green. Sailor Gentle Souten, Souten, is really nice. If you want Iron Gall, Quizzy Iron Gall turquoise is great. It goes on turquoise but dries a dark blue, and then regular Quizzy non-Iron Gall turquoise is also a beautiful ink. I'm trying to think of some other turquoises that I have tried and liked. Usually, and then there's, that's right, the Rohrer and Klingner Blue Mare, Blumare. Beautiful turquoise ink as well. But the one I go to when I don't want to use my Dandy Turquoise, because I only have a bottle and a half of it left, and when it's gone, it's going to be gone for good. That turquoise is pretty much always Visconti. It's a beautiful ink, and I really like it. It's where's the bottle? Here it is. Visconti turquoise. Very nice ink. Highly recommend it. So, all right. I think that is going to do it for this overlong episode of Currently Inked. You know me, I'm a talker. Thank you so much for your questions. If you'd like to submit questions for future episodes, you can go to penhabit.com. On the left-hand side, down a little bit, there'll be a link to say submit questions for the next Currently Inked. I try to go through them. I generally will only try to answer one question from a person per episode. So if you submit several, it may take me a long time to get to them. Let me say a quick thank you again to the sponsor of this episode, PenChalet.com. Great selection of pens and accessories and inks and papers. They're one of the big retailers for fountain pens out there, and they've got great customer service. They're big supporters of the bloggers out there, and you can get 10% off your order if you use the coupon code INKED, INKED, at checkout. So thank you to Pen Chalet once again for sponsoring this episode. All right, that should do it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon on another episode of Currently Inked. Bye.